Yeah, so today we're going to be actually writing a auction application using Algorand smart contracts. So we're going to be auctioning fungible or non-fungible tokens using smart contracts, and then we're going to be testing it with PyTest. So we're writing our contract with Beaker and PyTeal, much like we did at the end of session 2. And then we're going to talk about how to interact with it through Python and test it with PyTest. Much like all of our other session guys, it's important that you head on over to Algorand DevRel Bootcamp, especially if this is your first session and you're just playing catch up. And then we also have our link to our Gitpod, which we'll be going to in just a second. And then our video recordings from our previous 2 sessions. Both session 1 and session 2 are now here on YouTube unlisted. So you can go head to this repo and check them out. And then once today's session is over, there'll also be a recording here. As we mentioned, today's session is going to be focused on building an auction contract and then talking about how we actually test that contract using PyTest. I already have the contract written and it's here in the session 3 directory. So what you got to do is, if you haven't already been following along, then the easiest way is to come to this repo and just head on over to this Gitpod link. So if you open up this link, it'll set up a workspace for you that has all your dependencies. If you've already been following along, if you already have a Gitpod environment or you already have a local environment, what you got to do is go to your Bootcamp directory here, or clone the Bootcamp directory, and then do a git pull to make sure that you have the latest version. So you want to make sure you see the session 3 directory. In the Gitpod here, what it's going to do is it's going to set us up with our environment. First, it'll install AlgoKit, and then it'll start up our local network. So this is the network we'll be deploying and testing against. And then we are now ready to begin development. So what I'm going to do, like I said, we already have all of our code here in the session 3 directory. But before I actually open up the session 3 directory, I'm just going to briefly talk about how I created it. So if you've participated in our earlier sessions, you might be familiar with the AlgoKit init command. So to create this session 3 directory, what I did was called AlgoKit init. And then I passed in the defaults flag. And then I chose Beaker starter. I'm just going to call this session 3 example, since I already have a session 3 directory. And what that will do is, I guess the defaults flag didn't work. So we're just going to go ahead, enter in all the defaults here. What that's going to do, it's going to create a new directory for us. So if we take a look in session 3 here, actually give it a second and it'll automatically open up for us. And so there are 2 files in here, the app.py and the deploy.py. In this app.py is where I modified the code for the auction. And then the deploy, I also made some minor modifications. So all of this example code is automatically created for us with AlgoKit init. So if I go ahead, head back to the root directory, then open up the session 3 directory, you can see that I still have my app.py and my deploy.py. Here in my app.py, I have the Beaker contract written, and then in deploy, it's simply creating it. Then I have one additional file that I added called test.app.py, and we'll be getting to this a little bit later. Now, one thing you might notice is the common problem. If I open up a file, it'll say select interpreter. What this means is I probably need to run a bootstrap. So if I do AlgoKit bootstrap all, I spelled bootstrap wrong. So AlgoKit bootstrap all in my session 3 directory. What that will do is install all of the dependencies for me as if I was initializing this directory for the first time. However, this has already been initialized, so it just installs the dependencies. And I can go ahead and reopen it. And I can now see I don't have that interpreter error. Basically, what we got to do here is go into your session 3 folder, run AlgoKit bootstrap all, and then open up this folder, and you should be good to go. And so the file we're going to start taking a look at is this app.py. what I'm going to do is, as I mentioned, this is all already written. What I'm going to do is break down what each of the different things are doing. And then once we go through all the smart contract logic, I'll be going into test app.py and showing you how we actually test the contract. First, we got to start taking a look at the contract itself. And before I go into the actual code, I want to talk a little bit about the overall design of the app. So in this auction app, what we want to happen is we want the end user to have some token, whether it's an NFT or some amount of fungible token, send it to a smart contract and let people make bids for it. And then after a certain amount of time passes, whoever the highest bidder is gets the NFT, and whoever started the auction gets that highest bid. So ultimately, this is a fairly straightforward in terms of overall design. So now let's go into the actual implementation.